was your impression about how the Colonel approached Elvis's funeral? Did he appear to have any emotion over Elvis being gone? Was he dressed nice, or was he there because he had a heart, or was he there because he had to be?
I think Colonel.
I think he was hurt.
And yeah, I think he cared a lot about Elvis.
He was not. He was dressed. He didn't dress up in a suit and all that. And I remember he had on a baseball cap too. Mm-hmm. But you had to know how the Colonel was. I didn't know him like Billy and all them did, but he stayed busy. During the getting everybody and doing all that, but that was just his way. I think it was his way of controlling the way he felt. Really, I think I'm like Billy. I think he loved Elvis, but I think he could see that things were probably going to make a turn, and he wanted to get everything he could get while he could get it.
I know he was like down at the gate and observing all the
fans
and all that, and how many people that came in. Mm-hmm. And don't know that Colonel might not have suggested to Uncle Vernon and
opening up.
Let's open it up. Of course, it would have been both of their ideas, because Vernon at that time, now he's in charge.
Yeah.
And like Uncle Vernon said, he said, Elvis was man of the people, mm-hmm. and the fans made him, so they have a right to,
right,
to
pay
come
their
in
respect.
And pay their respects to him.
And they had Elvis's casket brought out, and it was back in the entrance hall back, so that they could come in the front door and go in front of it and circle around and go back out. So they
had a tight squeeze going in, because you went in on this side, but the door was wide.
Yeah, they had like a...
And they had a little rope, and you went in, you went around, and you come back out.
So you went in the front, out the front.
In the front, out the front.
And his, I think Dick Grove got a little confused, because Dick was one of the ones that,
helped put it there.
Was... letting people, actually getting them lined up where they could go in. Mm-hmm. And of course, all us guys, had a little part to play. Well, like I say, the door was wide enough that they could go in, go around, and come right back out.
It was like
and
a roped off.
In order to everybody that was lined up, Lord, I mean, just far, so they had to keep it going. You couldn't, they wouldn't allow them to,
And it was not where they could touch him. It was roped off, and his, it wasn't like way back, but it was roped off enough that nobody could reach over and touch him.
I'd say about 6 feet.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I'd say too, about 6 feet. And
did y'all have any problems up there with anybody, or were they all respectful?
They were all respectful.
Very respectful.
Very respectful.
I mean, there wasn't any
nobody tried to break
down or
a lot of people when they came in, it was like because most of them had never been inside Graceland, and they were like looking, which is a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
But even the guys that came through, if they had on the cap, they took their cap off, and I mean me and Linda and Patsy Presley sat on the steps going up to his room and viewed a lot of the people coming through. Billy and all the guys had to walk, they were around and at the door and at the casket and all that, and everybody was very, very respectful.
How long did it take?
Oh,
all day.
Hours.
Was it just one day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Day.
And was it first come, first serve?
Yeah, they just lined up.
They just lined up. You just had to keep them in a line.
How was it announced that would happen?
I don't know how. To tell you the truth, we were so
I just wonder because you say maybe word of mouth or whatever. Because back then, again, there was no internet. You didn't go on
No.
Facebook and say, "Hey, we're gonna open up
I
for this
don't know
amount at
if,
this time" or whatever.
I don't know if it was announced at the gate or how they let the public know that his fans would be able to view him, but I remember it took all day. They announced it the day before, and it took all day long. It was, but there was not one problem
Not one
that
problem.
I recall, not one. It was, everybody was hurt, you know. They came
Right.
through sobbing and,
Would you say thousands of people?
oh gosh,
Oh,
yes,
gosh,
yes. The people, when we went out to go to the cemetery, we went out with the funeral in the limousine. There was people at the gate on both sides of the highway that reached all the way to the cemetery, and you know how far the cemetery, and then up inside the cemetery they had, of course, you know, police and all that, but it was, and that whole lawn, the whole thing was covered. They said they sold more flowers that week, that day for Elvis than they had ever sold. There was no flowers
They even
left
had
in
to have
Memphis.
flowers
Shipped in.
Yeah.
It was it was unreal.
Let's see. We have another question to come in that says, I've heard that in the new book about Colonel Tom Parker, someone claims that Elvis once robbed a store.
What?
I mean, and they're not saying, it's not very specific on, you know, like
That's as bad as when
he
they
was a
said he
kid
shot his
or-
mother.
Yeah.
Right. You know, they're not saying if he was like as a kid or a teenager or as an adult, surely, but I mean, you don't know that to be true at all.
Why?
Ever.
No, that's not true. That's ridiculous.
That's what they said that in the new book about Tom Parker, that's claimed in the book, and I'm not sure who, because
Who is it by?
that I'm not sure. I'll have to look. It was a question that came in, says that there's a new book on Tom Parker, and within the book someone claimed that Elvis robbed a store, and is that true?
No.
No.
So I'm not sure who wrote the book. We would have to hear it. It says there's a new book out about Elvis and Colonel Parker, and it's written by someone named Greg McDonald, who was a friend of Parker's. I don't know if you recognize that name.
I
I
don't.
don't recognize the name, no.
Okay. But yeah, it says that while this follower has not read the book, it says that they have heard that the book does attempt to paint Colonel Parker in a more positive light than the Elvis movie made him out to be. So, you know, kind of given more of a positive, more than a given more positive than negative Parker, and then that someone in the book claimed that Elvis had robbed a store at some point in his life.
I've never heard
Never
that in my
heard
life.
No, I can't. I can't even imagine that kind of bull crap.
Right.
You know, so.
I'm just
That's
looking at a few
ridiculous.
questions just pop up, and I'm wanting to kind of get them covered. And you'll notice from this video, this one is actually going to be in a part 1 and a part 2, where we break the questions down. Did Billy have a specific job while working for Elvis? Was there one particular thing that you did, or one particular thing that each guy was in charge of or responsible for, or was it just basically whatever the king said?
Depending on
Yeah.
movie days and
Actually, I
Tour
first
days.
started off taking care of his shoes and stuff, making sure he had so many pair of shoes, you know, and if they were kept, you know, shined and stuff like that, for the set, and also for his private use, and then moved on different positions from there. But mostly my job was, you know, is
companion.
yeah, it was more for companionship.
In fact, on your a lot of your I know on Danny and Joey's birth certificate it lists your job and it says traveling companion for Elvis Presley. So basically, Billy just did whatever Elvis
wanted
him to, and
as long as it wasn't kill somebody.
Yeah. Basically, company and. Of course he did do, took care of.
Job, I took care of the dressing room a lot. I cleaned it up after,
Took cars to be dropped off
whatever,
and, whatever.
But, the odds and ends, something I say.
How did Joe pass the time when Billy had to be on the road with Elvis?
If you, like I have said before, spent a lot of time with Priscilla and Patsy Lacker, and of course I had a little boy named Danny, and he was holy terror when he was little. That took up a lot of time, and then Joey came along, and when Joey was born, though, we traveled from then on with Billy, but I spent a lot of time with just, at home and going to the movies and going to the fairgrounds, going with Patsy, and we'd take our kids to the zoo and to the carnivals and all kind of stuff like that. We'd go out to eat, just do crazy stuff in Memphis, and then go home and be real depressed and cry. But it was not, it wasn't easy. But we were all in the same boat. And it was sinking fast.
What do you think Elvis would have done had he not gone into a music and acting career?
I don't know. He always was. He might have became a police officer, or, really don't know.
He liked singing, and from the time he was little, though.
he wanted. I mean, he had intentions of becoming a singer. With quartet or anything he could get back in. But his working was because he had to work to make any money, but he would go to different artists' shows, and I think maybe if nothing else he might have even started his own
run for president.
Since I know Elvis spent most of his time upstairs, was there ever an instance where you had to go down into the pool room or down a lower level, maybe during a tornado alert? Do you ever recall that?
No.
It would have been a great place. Down in the pool room would have been a great place. But
just wasn't.
I don't think he ever worried about stuff like that. I don't remember him ever being worried about the weather or anything. And in fact, we went out. He called us out there one day, and it was real weather, tornado warnings out, and all kind of stuff. And he got on his. It was on those little, what do you call them? The trikes. And me and Billy got on one, and we went to the airport. He had Milo High, the pilot of the Jetstar,
Jetstar,
at the airport, and he wanted to go up and just fly around for a while, and he had asked Billy and me to go.
Well, he had some that were out there, fans and all, and he was going to take them up, and of course Milo came over to me and he said,
talking out of.
He said, man, this ain't the kind of weather that we should be just flying around at. He said it's different, with these pilots, because they get off and then they get up above it, and he said I don't know what
Yeah.
flight path I'll have to assign, and we may not be able to. And he said, a lot of things can happen. He said, man, I wish you wouldn't do that. He said, I think there's any way of talking him out of it. And I said, well, you can ask me. He said, no,
Yeah, I'm not me.
Not me. He said, but would you try to talk him out of it?
Right.
And so I managed to,
But he was mad.
Man.
It started to
he wasn't
pour
happy,
down rain, and we were on those.
I mean, drenched. Well, we were.
And he was on one too, and it came a flood, and we were out. I remember him going through that light on was it Mill? What? No, it wasn't Mill Branch, was it? Or was it Airways?
Mm-hmm.
And he cut through there, boy, and hit it back to Graceland. He was mad. He said, "You can get up and get above it," and he said, "Yeah, but we got to come back down. And if it's tornadoes."
No, and Milo, like I said, I can't. I have to set a pattern, and it be where they, put me, because you can't just go up.
Can't just go where you want to go.
You don't know what planes and what area, and he said I have to set a flight plan, and I don't know what altitude that'll be. And he said, we may not be able to get above it. And I said, well, Elvis, well, why take a chance like that? But Elvis was daring like that,
He did. And you would have thought after all of his fear of flying in the early years, he wouldn't have, but it didn't even faze him. He wanted to go up, I know one time he said, everybody, we're going to just go up and fly around Memphis. And he had this, I don't know what that plane was called, but it was like I called it a flat belly.
Yeah.
And I told Billy, I said, ooh, I got a feeling, I don't want to get on that thing. I got a feeling about it. And I remember Dean Nicopoulos was walking with me and Billy. We were at the plane, and he said, are you going to get on there? I said, mm-mm. He said, I'm not either if you're not. And so we stood there for a minute, and I said, okay, it kind of passed. So we got on there, and Dean said, okay, I will too. But we didn't fly around very long.
No.
We came back.
I didn't like it.
I didn't like that plane either.
I think he was just trying out.
It might have just been,
stuff like that.
But it was just a group of people that was at the house, the guys, and it wasn't the one that he went up with. Was it Christmas or Christmas Eve or something that he went up on? And it wasn't that one.
Did he ever have any, or say he had any type of desire to fly a plane himself?
I don't recall him ever.
Getting a pilot's license.
That's not. Yeah, he did one time. Yeah, we was.
Did he actually fly it?
Yeah. He sat down in the co-pilot seat, which I can tell now, but you wouldn't want to tell that.
You couldn't tell it then, getting somebody in trouble. But he never.
But it was a prop plane. It wasn't a jet.
Yeah, but boy, he bragged on his crew. He bragged on
how good they were.
How good they were, and they were. Elwood and Ron and Jim, and then Carol, the stewardess. They were, and he bragged on them all the time. He thought they were great.
They were.
They were. They were
a great group. To be, his
pilots.
His pilots and stewardess.
Yeah.
They were.
And they were professional. Even.
Oh yeah. They would clown around.
Yeah, they were funny. All of them were funny as they could be, joking around.
Right.
But they were serious when they got in that cockpit.
Al would say, look at that, look at that, look at it. He said, we're the only ones flying right side up. They all flying upside down. And it was funny. He was a character.
And Elwood was a little short guy.
And so was Ron. He was,
Ron, yeah.
They would come up with all kind of crap.
I know Elvis asked me to take Alicia Kerwin up in the cockpit. We were on our way to Vegas, and I took her up in there. He said let her just see what it's like. We were up there. It's amazing how it looks. And Elwood said, I think we're lost. And Ron said, you think so? And he said, yeah, do you see any signs or anything? And he said, Ron said, I hadn't seen a one since we pulled into whatever area. And he said, I know we're lost. I don't know what we're going to do. But, and Alicia's like, and then they started, they could be just as serious.
Funny, boy.
They were. But they took care of Elvis, so, they took care of...
You took care of that plane.
They did.
They had to have some new instrument put in and all that and help with.
They had all the updated equipment, everything. It was,
Well, I guess with that sums up pretty much all the questions for now. I'll have another open post come up on Facebook for everybody where you can submit your questions on that post. That makes it very easy because I can read them straight off of the post.
we'll try to get around to all of them, too.
Try to get around to them all. I mean, there are some that I already know is not going to be answered, or maybe a little too private, or too opinionated for YouTube, that just are not asked. But we do try to get around to all of them, so keep submitting those questions.
Yep.
I guess.
And with that,
all I've got.
remember,
Elvis Fans Matter.